I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone yesterday. He had sent me this amazing website of an innovative project, very futuristic, next generation, related to a smart city and incorporating all sorts of information technology, environmental considerations, just a generally cool project that is going to bring together some of the greatest minds in the world and which is backed by really big bucks. We went down a rabbit hole of researching it, looking at who they've hired, thinking about what they would be needing. We just had this banter back and forth on WhatsApp, and eventually he called me, and I said, "Oh, remind me who sent that to you?" And it was a former employee. Let's call him Martin for the sake of this conversation. I was like, "Wow, that's really cool. So what did Martin have to say about it?" And he said, "Oh, he doesn't want to live in the Middle East, and he isn't sure they really know what they need." Kind of stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, "Well, that's the difference between Martin and us." And I said to my friend, "He's negotiating with himself." And he goes, "That's exactly what I said to him." Trust me, the project is so next level. The flattery of receiving the call is such that you'd have to be kind of crazy not to show up for an interview, just out of sheer curiosity, if nothing else. At least that's the way I see it. He's negotiating with himself. It's like he ruled himself out. And it's not like he had a job offer. Getting a call is not the same as getting a job offer. And while going on job interviews can be a nuisance and a waste of time, and there are lots of things about people not respecting your time and or trying to get information out of you, that's life. That stuff happens. I know that. But when you have something in front of you like this, you have to say yes and show up and get exposure to whoever's working for the company. It can inform your job and open your mind to all kinds of possibilities that you hadn't previously considered or known about. Anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is about negotiating with yourself and ruling things out. Later yesterday afternoon, I came across a video. This is related. I came across an interview with my friend Jeffrey Madoff. He's a teacher at the new school here in New York. He's also an author and playwright and filmmaker. And he's interviewed really incredible people, and he puts these snippets on LinkedIn that are terrific. This one was with a woman. I know that she worked at the New York Times and was an author and columnist at one point, but she was telling the story of her father who grew up in Israel during a time when, I don't know, certain types of education weren't available. And the law changed, and the banks were offering loans to help people go to school. And her father had learned about it because she ran into this woman on the street, and the woman said, "Oh, no, they would never give me a loan." And the father said to the woman, "Let them say no first." And she was saying that became her mantra. As a struggling journalist and creative person, 9 out of 10 times it's a no. Getting to yes is really difficult. And she was saying how that really became her mantra. Let them say no first. Anyway, in that story, it was her father who learned about this program and got the loan and became a doctor and moved to the United States and changed the trajectory of his life and of his whole family's life. It was a really cool story. Anyway, that line, let them say no first, is the same thing I was trying to say earlier. Don't negotiate with yourself. Anyway, back to my friend, I was saying, we shouldn't be criticizing Martin because ultimately we all have to know ourselves. He and I are both adventurous, entrepreneurial, more risk takers. We're more outdoor cats versus indoor cats. We were talking about our families. He comes from a family of doctors and farmers, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So not everybody is wired the same way, right? Just because we thought it was a great opportunity doesn't mean that everyone feels comfortable with that. But anyway, I'm kind of contradicting myself because on the one hand, I'm saying you have to be curious and show up because you never know. And on the other side, there's also an element of know thyself. And we don't know why people choose a safer route sometimes. We can't really know how they're hardwired or what their personal considerations are. Anyway, I want to close with a Mel Robbins reel that came across this morning. It's very relevant to this story. She pops on and she says, I have 3 things that are going to make your life a lot better. Number 1, if they wanted to, if they could, they would. Number 2, you can't make people change. You can make them coffee, you can serve them breakfast, you can even serve up some inspiration, but you can't make people change. And number 3, stop being mad at other people when they aren't the person you want them to be. I thought that was great. If they wanted to, if they could, they would. You can't make other people change, and stop being mad at other people because they aren't the person you want them to be. Great advice, and I'm going to end with that. Until next time, from my heart to yours.